y'all, I'm Logan Clements, freelance event producer, and I'm so excited to bring to you guys my next installment in my favorite tips and tricks about event planning and running my own business. This week, we're going to tackle something that I've been already talking about, but I wanted to dive into a little bit more about virtual events. And today we're going to tackle the difference between live events and virtual events. I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot of people who are trying to transition whatever event they'd originally planned to have this year or next year for in person and put it in the virtual space. So I'm going to talk about some of the key differences between your live event and your virtual event that you really should think about while you're making that transition. Before we talk more about the difference between your virtual and your live events, I do want to remind you guys to subscribe below, turn on the notification button so you hear every time that I'm dropping a new video every single Monday. Like, dislike, comment below if you're planning a virtual event or attended one that you really loved. I'm still on the hunt for good virtual event examples, so let me know. But without much further ado, let's jump back into it. So my first big key difference is your attendees' location. When you're hosting an event in a physical space, a live event, you are controlling the attendees' location. They come to you. But in the virtual event space, you can't control that part. You can control where they go virtually, but most of us, like myself, are watching or attending these events from their homes, their offices, their apartments. They're surrounded by family, by friends, roommates, partners, cats, dogs, all kinds of things. So they are not in the same kind of focused space that you would have had them if they were at your in-person event. And so this is something to think about when you're thinking about timing for your event. How long? Instead of doing an 8-hour in-person event, maybe you got to cut it down to 2 hours. I know that's a big jump, but you got to think about it because these people are not going to be in your physical space anymore. They're in their home. Now, the positive side of the event, of the attendees' location, is there is no commute. So one of the positives is now that you can reach more people with your live event than you ever could in person. You don't have to just target your local area and your local attendees. You could take it nationwide. You could take it worldwide. It's really cool to see some events that have always been smaller because they've been constrained by budgets or venues or whatever it was, now getting this national and international reach. So think about with your event, don't just limit yourself to your local market. See if maybe you could target more people and have more attendees to your event because that'll make you happy. They'll make your stakeholders happy, any sponsors or partners you brought on happy, and it just expands your reach overall. My next point of the difference between virtual and live events is your event ambiance. And so coming back to that first point, it is similar to saying your attendees are not here in person and you're going virtual, but so much of your event feeling comes from the location, comes from being there in person, that excitement of us all being together. And so virtual events, it's not very different from live because it's a lot more like TV. As you think about the virtual space, think less about exactly what the attendees are doing and more about how you want them to feel. What is your so what? And I talk about this a lot, but what is the so what for each part? If you want to start them at a very excited from the entrance to the event, start with an icebreaker. Or maybe you want it to be more formal, so start with it's just entrance music and a title slide waiting for them when the webinar starts. Do you want it to be more casual at the end? I've seen really cool DJs that do dance parties after the end of things. I've seen some cool stuff with Couch Party and doing different games. So really just think through scene by scene exactly what you want your event to feel like. Very similar to a TV. What's your first act going to look like? What's your second act? What's your big climax of your virtual event? These are things you should think about in the live atmosphere, but in virtual it's even more important because you do not have the help of having that ambiance and that event feel in person. My next point is technology is the new venue. Can't tell you how many people have told me that they have their own virtual platform. I feel like everyone has one. I've seen speaker bureaus have one. I've seen event registration sites pivot and have them. It seems like everyone has a virtual event solution. Now, the hard part is telling the difference between all of them because they're all so different. There's so many new ones popping up that can give you everything from just showing video that your attendees can watch and comment on to actually giving them a virtual exhibition hall that they can walk around and talk to different vendors at different virtual booths. Now, not all platforms are created equal, but I would approach this situation of looking for what virtual platform to use similar to what you did with a venue. There are certain constraints. Some technology platforms are an all-in-one. They have everything you need, but that usually means they're going to be a higher price. Now, some other venues, it might be more like a warehouse or something. Let's say, in this analogy of venues, it's a warehouse. So has the structure, but you're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting to make it feel awesome. And so this could be more of your plug and play of like just going through Zoom, where you're going to have to do more production on the back end to make it look nice. It's really what you want to make it. And so I would really think through what are all the things that you need and want for your attendees, for your event, whatever that is, before you look for the technology. I've seen a lot of people do it the other way around, where they find the technology first and then they want to plan the event. And that's okay to do, but just think of it like you just kind of looked for a venue, you picked a venue, and now no matter what you're going to do, you're going to plan it around the venue you chose. That's kind of the same when it comes to virtual platforms. That being said, look at your budget and be realistic. I know similar to for venues, there are certain venues that you're going to pay really high prices because it has a spectacular view or country club-like settings. And there's other ones that are going to be a steal because maybe it is like that warehouse feel and that bare bones, but you could still make it super cool. And so there are solutions that will work for you and your budget. You might just need to be a little creative in how you look for them. So do your research, evaluate your technology platforms like you would a venue. And especially for some of these all-in-one platforms, I've seen a lot of like hidden fees, which sometimes you might have had in person at venues of added things. If you want this, you want to add that, you want to add this. But talk about that early before you sign your contract, just so you know that you're not going to have all these hidden fees sneak up on you. Like if you bought a platform for 2,000 people and all of a sudden you've oversold it and there's 3,000 people going, which is great, but wouldn't that be great to have that conversation ahead of time so you know how much extra that's going to cost you, so that you've already taken that into consideration with your budget, and then you can proceed accordingly. The next big difference between virtual and live would be your event date. I feel like a lot of events happen on the weekend. It's really nice because people are off work, they want to come and enjoy themselves, or maybe they want to learn something, whatever it was. But one of the things I'm seeing in the virtual space is a lot more people are shying away from weekend dates. I'm even advising clients away from weekend dates if you're hosting a corporate or a nonprofit event, because what I feel like is we're so much on screen right now that when we have time off, when we have those weekends, we don't want to be sitting in front of a computer screen. Doesn't matter how long or short or how awesome. Now, if you have a great event that you know people love, sure, your super fans are definitely going to come and watch. But if you're trying to expand your reach, think about going on a weekday. Maybe you could go during the week, during the actual work day, because we're now working from home. A lot of more schedules are flexible, or maybe you do a weeknight. But I just have seen less people trying to target that Saturday, Sunday days like we used to in in-person events. As you think about transitioning your in-person event to virtual, just because you picked a specific date doesn't mean you have to keep it. You can definitely change it. It's a great and a very organic time to announce together when you're saying, hey, we're not in person anymore, we're virtual. You can also announce a new event date, because positive with this too, with technology, no commute. Back to my first point, your attendees don't have to make travel plans. They can just come and show up at your virtual event. So it's not as big of a heavy lift as in-person events when we wanted to change the event date. My next one pertains to you marketing people. This one I kind of love is with virtual events, your marketing window is a lot shorter. When I say shorter, I just mean you need less lead time before your event to promote it to attendees. In the beginning of 2020, I would have said, nope, you got to get it out early. In-person events, they take months to plan and months to promote. You really want to open up your ticket sales as early as possible so we can start to get a gauge of how many people are coming. With virtual events, sure, you can open your ticket sales up early, but I'm seeing a lot more attendees sign up last minute. And by last minute, I'm saying the week of, 2 weeks out. And so what I'm seeing is some virtual events, they're announcing and they're only having about a 2-3 week lead time, which I think is really smart, because right now, 2020 has felt like the year, like if you had plans, it's just going to keep laughing in your face and making you change your plans. Meet your attendees where they're at. Maybe right now, like July is not the time to start promoting your November event, because to me, oh gosh, November feels like eons in the future. But this is a great time to start promoting your August event. And so as an organizer, this is great because you have so much more flexibility of trying something new, of trying a virtual event for the first time and not needing to have had 6 months of lead time. You could plan one and produce one next month. You still could have high attendance because people are attending virtual events a lot more on the fly than they would in-person events. And my last point is rehearsals matter. Now at live events, you also would have rehearsals, but sometimes those would just be the same day. With the virtual events, rehearsals matter. This is where you need to channel your inner theater person. I mean, I'm obsessed with theater. I like to say I'm a theater nerd. I love Broadway shows, but channel that. So when you're in theater, you know that there's a tech rehearsal, a dress rehearsal, and then you have the real thing. Take all of that and apply it to your virtual event. You really need to have a tech rehearsal because so much of your actual event experience relies on the technology and relies on the speakers and the programming. You want to make sure it's flawless. And so have a tech rehearsal. This is anyone who's working on the technical side of it, from your team, from an AV company, whoever you're working with, you have a rundown of the event using everything just like it was the real event. Then you have a dress rehearsal. This is where you would bring in all of your speakers and have them actually maybe not present their entire talk, but simulate it a little bit so it's like a rehearsal. Now, if you have 20 breakout sessions and breakout talks, that means you're going to have 20 rehearsals. Maybe more than that, because some people need more than one rehearsal, and that's okay. This is just something for you to think about as a planner, is suggesting to schedule these out 1 week to 2 weeks in advance of your event. Start doing these rehearsals so that by event day, your rehearsals are done, you're ready to roll, everyone's ready to go. So you add these into your timeline so you know that you need to have them. And it's also important for your programming side is when you're asking speakers is letting them know that additional time commitment, that they also need to commit to a rehearsal before your actual event day. And one of the things I do love about the rehearsals is it's a great opportunity for your speakers to get comfortable with the technology you're using. You can go over their actual talk if you would like, or I've had some rehearsals which honestly just turn into like, let's push all the buttons and see what happens on the speaker side, so they know when they log into your event, they know what all the buttons do and they know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, what it looks like, and how your platform works. Because back to my other point, there are so many platforms out there, you can't assume that whoever you're approaching about your virtual event understands the technology you're going to use, and the more time you can dedicate to helping them navigate it and understand it before your event, the smoother it's all going to be. And yeah, that brings me to the end of my I had 6 points, I guess, in there of the differences between virtual and live events. I know there's more that'll come up. Let me know if you've had some really big call outs of what's big different for you from the virtual to live event space. But these are just 6 points I know I keep coming back to. I come back to them over and over again when I'm talking with clients, when I'm looking at new projects, when I'm helping people transition from that live event into the virtual world. And it can feel overwhelming, but hopefully some of these points started to add a little bit of clarity to the differences and the similarities, and you feel a little bit more prepared about tackling the new virtual world. Because the positive of it all is it's new, people are excited, we all want to connect somehow. So doing something in the virtual space, even if it's not as polished as maybe your live event, is way better than doing nothing. Encourage you to try it, get your virtual event out there. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. It's been so nice talking to you guys again in another installment of my event tips and tricks. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.